Okay, everyone, right now the FBI is combing through Tennessee shooter Mohammed Abdelaziz's cell phone and computer to try and find any connections to ISIS. The 24-year-old killed 4 Marines and a Navy officer. Here's what we know. He did visit Jordan for 9 months in 2014. He wrote a collection of anti-U.S. sentiments. He suffered from depression and from drug use, and authorities are looking into an alleged text message from Abdelaziz to a friend just hours before the attack. The message included an Islamic verse that says, "Whoever shows enmity to a friend of mine, then I have declared war against him." So, yeah, this guy had a lot of problems. We're asking whether or not extreme Islam gave him an excuse here to engage in such a deadly act. Joining me right now, Congresswoman Marsha Blackburn, Dr. Walid Faris, Fox News Middle East and terrorism analyst, and Zuhdi Jasser, founder and president of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy. Zuhdi, what is your take? Do you think that this is a situation where the religion gave him an excuse and a reason to do these horrible things?
Well, Trish, I can't believe every time we focus just on the narrative of the individual rather than on the bigger picture. I mean, really, we're wondering what caused him to do this. His blog was about establishing Islam on earth. He was clearly moving towards a supremacist mindset, influenced by anti-American, anti-Western propaganda. So the bottom line is he may have been troubled, etc., but the train he got on was not only the ISIS train, but the global Islamist supremacist train that his version of Islam needs to be established, and the enemy of that is the West. And this was not just an act of terror. The fact that he attacked soldiers made it an act of war, no different than Nidal Hassan, the Tsarnaev brothers, and others. And that's why we've been so unable in our counterterrorism to effect counterterrorism, because we're focused last step, the violent step that he just did in the last few days. But he went from Muslim to Islamist to jihadist to violent extremist, and we need to start earlier in that pathway.
It also seems that we need to recognize the extreme element of this religion for what it is. Extremists are extremists. You know, we look at David Cameron over there in the UK, and he's actually, let me share with you an excerpt from the speech he gave. He's out there saying, look, we need to deal with extreme Islam because it is extreme and it is a threat. Listen to this.
So this is how I believe we can win the struggle of our generation. Countering the extremist ideology by standing up and promoting our shared British values. Taking on extremism in all its forms, both violent and non-violent.
Representative Blackburn, could you see, would you ever envision a scenario where our president is also standing up to extreme Islam in such a way as we saw from David Cameron?
Oh, Tricia, I tell you, I would like for our president to say we are at war and our enemy is radical Islamic extremist. That would be a good first step. You have to name your enemy in order to fight that fight. And you have to look at what is happening online and how these terrorist organizations, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, are using the internet to recruit, to train, to inspire, to motivate, utilizing that during Ramadan, calling for attacks on the U.S., and continuing to go after the iconic symbols of our society. And the military is one of those. And the attack in Chattanooga was absolutely horrific. And one of the things that people have realized from this is that now they expect and they fear that there may be other attacks that are like this that are carried other states and cities around the country.
Walid, should we be worried about that? I mean, this is, it seems at least, you know, on the surface to be one crazy guy who happened to be somewhat religious, but do we need to be worried about these other kinds of extreme Islam-inspired attacks like this on U.S. soil?
Well, to be honest, I'm more worried at this point in time in terms of how the administration strategy is going. I mean, for weeks we've heard from them that we are expecting something. Remember, over the 4th of July weekend, that the ISIS sympathizers are over 50 states, that they are radicalizing, that there are thousands of them. and then when the one act of violence occurs, and specifically against the U.S. armed forces, then the administration is discussing if there are stresses and psychological issues, and his mother-in-law. I mean, what is that? Of course they know that this is part of a homegrown, inspired by the ideology. What we don't know, if he had links to the organization, we do know it is about an ideology. Why is the administration hiding this?
Yeah, it's a good question. Any ideas, Zuhdi?
Well, the bottom line, I mean, look at Prime Minister Cameron. His speech was influenced by reformists. Killian Foundation, Majid Nawaz, who we've worked closely with, helped guide them to finally wake up that they need to start long before the violence to look at Salafism, to look at jihadism. We are not doing that in America. We're too worried about political correctness. This president won't even talk about Iran's calls for death to America, death to Israel. That's all part of the same mantra globally that's influencing these individuals. It all fits together. And if there's anyone in the world that can fight theocracy, Americans get this. So we don't have to declare war on all Muslims. Actually, Muslims like myself are impotent to do anything until America declares it as a problem within Islam.
Yeah, I don't get it. I really don't. Good to have all of you here. Congressman Zuhdi, good to see you as well.